Metroid Prime is one of my favorite games of all time. Even today, Talon 4 remains one of my absolute favorite video game worlds to explore. The diversity in biomes, the little details, and even the layout of the room themselves all contribute to making this world feel real and organic in a way I can't really explain, honestly. I still think this game has the greatest atmosphere I've ever seen, and it is the main reason I love this game so much. There definitely are other games I've played that have fantastic atmospheres, but it's rarely the most important part of the game for me, like it is with Metroid Prime. But I'm not here to simply gush about it for hours, although I certainly could. I'm here to talk about something very specific. Something that does pertain to its atmosphere, something that may go unnoticed by some, but is also something I always hope that any new Metroid game replicates. I want to talk about the fact that, in Metroid Prime, Samus is completely alone. Now, I know what you're thinking. Firstly, you're thinking, dude, why aren't you using footage of the remaster? Believe it or not, I do own the remaster and the Switch to play it on. Unfortunately, I can't record footage on my Switch, so I'm recording the original version, which I also own, on a Wii that I own as well. Unfortunately, I can't record footage on my Wii either. Wait, what? Yeah, so all of that is to say that I'm recording this on an emulator. Nintendo, don't kill me, please. But the second thing you're thinking is, aren't there plenty of other Metroid games where Samus is alone? And yes, there are, and yes, atmosphere is something these games almost always get right. For some reason, however, there's something about Metroid Prime specifically to me that makes the loneliness feel more apparent. Perhaps it's just because it's 3D and the larger scale that comes with it, consequently making you feel even smaller. Probably also the first-person perspective that has you seeing the game through Samus's eyes, making it significantly more immersive. But because of that loneliness, there's always this kind of tension that comes with knowing you have to rely entirely on yourself to push through any problems that come your way. There are no NPCs to upgrade your weapon, give you hints or shops of any kind. The only thing you can do is keep moving forward, or go back to lose yourself in a big immersive world that will make you feel tinier and tinier as you uncover more of it. Another thing that helps is that Metroid Prime is perfectly happy and adept at putting you in tense and maybe even scary situations. Metroid Prime was my first Metroid game. I must have been no more than 12 for my first playthrough, and this game was genuinely scary back then. In fact, up until that point, I seriously thought Metroid was kind of Nintendo's own horror franchise, and my first playthrough made me realize it certainly knew how to be scary. I especially remember going through the Space Pirates research lab in Phendrana Drifts for the first time. It was this grueling gauntlet of fights against the Space Pirates, who are fast and aggressive as heck in this game. When you're not fighting for your life, the only thing that accompanies you is the low, foreboding hum that counts as music in this place, as well as all the ambient sound effects of machinery and Samus's footsteps. When the Space Pirates aren't there to fight you, it's cold, it's empty, and it's isolating. It was harrowing going through fight after fight without any checkpoints as my health slowly dwindled, knowing I would have to restart it all again if I died, and admittedly I was incredibly relieved when I reached the save station after the super missiles. And I had a very similar, albeit more intense, experience when I first got into the Phazon mines. Those two moments are pretty similar, to be fair, and I still remember slowly tiptoeing around every room trying not to get ambushed by too many troopers at the same time because of how scared of them I was. Those two moments in particular really helped to cement that feeling of isolation and desperation that comes with feeling you are a lone warrior fighting for survival. Even nowadays, with at least a dozen of playthroughs of the game, including a handful of randomizers and 100% runs, there's still this foreboding sense of tension in a world I love so much and know so well that I genuinely consider it a comfort world. Another game that really encapsulates this feeling to me is none other than Super Metroid. If Metroid Prime has a more adventurous feel with a few instances of tension and dread thrown in, Super Metroid almost feels like the inverse of that. When Samus lands on Talon 4, you begin in the lush Talon overworld, and you're immediately treated to the calm yet invitingly mysterious music track. You'll encounter a couple of enemies, and no more than like 5 minutes later, you'll find yourself in the Chozo ruins, which are bright and calm, maybe a little ominous, but the natural sunlight does really help make them feel safer. Super Metroid Zebes, on the other hand, is nothing like that. Just a low, ominous droning with an occasional lightning strike, surrounded by dark grey rocks and the teeny tiniest patches of grass. Stepping inside the next room, it is incredibly dark and almost completely empty, save for these tiny little bugs on the wall that scurry away as Samus gets close. Once you make it out of the caves and into the remains of the old Turian, everything is broken, there's some kind of fog perpetually hanging around, and the rooms are bathed in this weird red hue. Even as you first head down into Brinstar to get your first upgrades, almost nothing changes. You won't really get any significant alterations until you get out of Brinstar and back into the remains of Torian. And while the game does occasionally stop trying to be so foreboding and oppressive, like when you first reach the grassy region of Brinstar, it is no stranger to bringing you right back into the dread, such as when you reach Red Brinstar. Or Norfair. Meridia. Direct ship? Pretty much everywhere and every time, honestly. Unlike Prime, Super Metroid almost never lets you feel safe. Right from the start, it's grim and foreboding, and it wants you to know that you are in a hostile environment, that you should be wary and cautious, and that it is perfectly content throwing curveballs at you at any moment, and it basically never makes any promises it will give you a moment of reprieve. There is no alien buddy, no sentient computer, no human version of a sentient computer. It just lets you marinate in it the entire time, and it's kind of unnerving. At least for a first-time player, which you may have been able to deduce from the B-roll, but I am not a first-time player. Quite far from it, in fact, and so I don't really think about it that much anymore. But there is one game I played recently that also does this incredibly well and certainly had me thinking about it, and I would be remiss not to talk about it here. And that game is Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights. This game is so beautiful, but man is it depressing! Just like the aforementioned Metroid games, Ender Lilies has an incredible atmosphere, and it too is grim and lonely as heck. Lily, the main character, is accompanied by the Umbral Knight throughout the entire game, but since she is completely mute, the two don't talk that often. The vast majority of the game is spent running into corrupted heroes and monstrosities, traversing sometimes creepy and grotesque environments, and aside from an occasional cutscene or observation from the Knight, you get basically no dialogue. Respites are your only, well, respites, and everything in between is incredibly tense, especially considering how unforgiving the game can be at times. You can't just get back to the hub to level up, upgrade your weapons or stock up on items, or even have friendly banter with a random NPC you met along the way. It's just you, throwing yourself in an incredibly dangerous situation, and the tension isn't relieved until you make it through. And I love it. There's a kind of thrill that really just can't be replicated when you have other virtual people to talk to that will ease the tension or point you in the right direction, perhaps even help make you feel more powerful. Even if they aren't real, they still have an impact on the player, and that can make a world of difference in the immersion or feel of the game, among other things. Like I said at the beginning, I always find myself hoping that Samus will be alone for her next adventure, and this is generally something I hope to have in any game that is meant to be challenging or have a foreboding, unnerving, or tense atmosphere. For instance, I sometimes find myself wishing that we'll eventually get a Souls game that has no NPCs in it. Such a game doesn't actually exist yet, so I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but I would certainly be interested in trying it out. Perhaps, when a game doesn't give me as many things to pay attention to, I can dedicate all my brain power on one specific aspect in order to really absorb all the details about it. And when I realize all those little things, it naturally starts to really influence my perception of it, and consequently, my feelings about it too. Coming to the realization of just how alone I am in this world makes me feel anxious and lonely, but it also makes it thrilling and even more immersive. I'm no expert on anything, obviously, I'm sure this video made this very clear, but part of me hopes that people who might be interested in making a game that aims to be difficult or have a tense and unnerving atmosphere consider having the player be alone for the journey. I know that I, at least, would very much like that. Man, this video has me thinking that I should probably play some more horror games. If you have one that feels like it has what I'm talking about in this video, put it down in the comments, I'd be interested to see what it's about. Well, I think that's going to be all from me for this video, so thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then feel free to like and subscribe and comment and all of that stuff. And if you didn't like it, then go ahead and dislike and slander me in the comments. Well, I think I've taken up enough of your time as is, and I've got to go ahead and work on what's next, so expect a video relatively soon-ish with a little bit of luck, and hopefully I'll even get to see you there. See ya.